Hi, I'm Nina Melendez, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, a show about the world of work and our place in it. Now, the tech industry is showing a massive slowdown. First came the freezes and then the layoffs. According to Crunchbase, more than 45,000 workers in the sector have lost their jobs. For the tens of thousands of workers looking to transition into tech, this makes an already competitive industry even more so. So, how can people break into the coveted tech space, and is it all that it's cracked up to be, and what kind of jobs are available? Well, we are going to unpack all of that with my next two guests. Joining me now is Mary Awodele. She is the founder of My Tech Best Friend, an education and career development service that helps minorities find jobs in tech. Before that, she worked as a project manager at the National Science Foundation and as a data migration business analyst for the Department of Defense. Mary holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland Global Campus. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And next, we have Jeremy Schifeling. He is the founder of Break Into Tech, a career development company specifically for the tech sector. He's also the director of consumer and product marketing at the Khan Academy and previously worked as a product manager for Google Maps. Jeremy holds an MBA from the University of Michigan. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Nia.
So, Jeremy, I want to start with you. Your company, Break Into Tech, informs people of available jobs. And I was just talking about how there are slowdowns and freezes and layoffs happening right now. Based on your convos with industry insiders, when do you suppose opportunities sort of might open up a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for the folks out there who are excited to break into the tech industry, if you just focus on the headlines themselves, you might start to think, oh my goodness, there's no opportunity out there. In fact, if you do a search for tech jobs on LinkedIn today, you'll find over 50,000. So I think the really critical takeaway is no matter what's happening in the tech industry, and no one can predict it with 100% accuracy, there's always going to be opportunity out there if you know where to look. So go to LinkedIn, find those amazing tech jobs. They're hiring today, and they will be for the foreseeable future.
And aggregate hiring is sort of up, isn't it, year over year for tech, or compared to other sectors, right?
Absolutely, because if you think about it, what have we just experienced as a society going through the pandemic is a world driven by technology. And obviously, we're kind of going back to a little bit business as usual. But the reality is tech is going to be a big part of our lives for year after year after year, and tech jobs will come with that.
And Mary, working in tech doesn't just mean coding and programming. What kind of other roles exist out there?
Yeah, so there's a variety of roles within the tech field that you can work. Most people do think that everything involves coding, and that's basically how you can make the most money. But there's a variety of roles such as QA testing, technical writing, project management, program management, and a variety of other different skills to which you can still be technical or non-technical, still increase your skill sets, still make a lot of money, have longevity, and you don't have to touch a line of code. So definitely just do your research, look up non-technical roles within the tech field, roles that don't involve coding, and you'll be surprised about the variety of roles that you can actually work in and be successful.
And you mentioned money, maybe for the both of you. I don't even know if this is a fair question because the roles are so diverse, but what is the average salary for someone, say, just coming into the space? Is that...
I would say it definitely depends on the position. I always preach to my audience as well as my students that niching down is the best way, especially in the environment and the space that we're in, with kind of like the layoffs happening and post or pre-pandemic, is to definitely niche on a variety of areas or softwares to which you can increase your salary. I've seen people start off in roles paying, around 100K, which it seems like, okay, that's a little crazy for somebody who doesn't have much experience, but you are able to develop experience through, various ways, various projects to which you can work on your own, or whether it's through something that's more instructor led, like an academy. But honestly, if you can niche down, have your own area to which can help you be, pandemic proof and recession proof, you are definitely able to see super high salaries without code, even as a newbie.
Jeremy, I see you nodding feverishly. What else?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I totally agree with Mary, because if you think about it, an entry-level person coming out of a traditional school and going to a traditional industry might say, oh, I can only make kind of the bare minimum because that's the way the world has always worked. But the beauty of tech is that it scales so heavily. Even one coder or one product manager or one product marketer coming right out of undergrad could create opportunities for thousands of other people through the leverage of technology. And so I think if you want to understand where is that wealth coming from, technology just creates so much more scaled opportunity than traditional industry.
I want to talk about that scaling in a little bit when it comes to getting certifications and all that. I'm going to pause the conversation very quickly and say hi to some members who are joining us from all over the world. We've got Monica in Texas, Michael in Germany, Evie in Italy, Aman in India, and Sonal from the UK. If any of you guys have questions for our guests, put them in the stream. We'll get those answered for you. We're talking about how to break into tech. So before we talk about scaling, just for the both of you, what are some of the best companies to work for when you look at things like culture and perks and salary? Anything you've heard of, like, companies that you just want to work there?
Oh, you can go first.
Oh, so yeah.
So you take it.
What I would say, and I would love to hear Mary's thoughts as well, is there's really no such thing as a perfect company for everyone.
Yeah.
There's just one that fits your unique strengths better or worse. And so what I would challenge your listeners to do, Nina, is not just go based on conventional wisdom, like, oh, this company's really famous or this company's really rich, therefore I want to work there. But instead, use LinkedIn to find people on the inside. Talk to people at Google or LinkedIn or Khan Academy. Find out what it's really like, and then decide whether it's a good fit for you. And that way you pave the way to success in your own career. What do you think, Mary?
I definitely agree with you when it comes to, doing your own research, and that there's not that one specific company that is just like so amazing. Because honestly, there's pros and cons to any company that you work at. I would say that a lot of people always say that they look at, the big five companies like Microsoft and, and the others that are out there pretty much. But you may speak to some employees that are in there and maybe they have, specific experiences that maybe that doesn't fit with you. It doesn't mean that the company is actually bad or anything. It just means that the company just doesn't fit you as an individual. You might find a better fit with maybe something that's a little bit smaller, or a small consulting company that maybe a lot of people haven't really heard of. And especially, I would say now in the environment and the climate that we're in with the recessions and things like that, is that you have to, you can even look at smaller companies, because honestly, who are we hearing that are doing larger layoffs right now are actually the big companies that everybody seems to want to, aspire to work at. So I would say maybe you want to look for a company that has high job security, throughout. The bigger companies are usually the ones that do large layoffs that to initially start, but you might have security at something that is smaller that, people don't necessarily pay attention to, like on a large scale. So it just really depends on you and how you feel about the company, their practices, and, whatever fits you, honestly.
Yeah. Is it easier to move up in the company if it's a larger or smaller company, or does that not really matter?
I would say, I think that there can be ways on whether it's a big company or a large company. I know that with larger companies like Amazon and or Microsoft, they usually have, different levels and tiers and, set things that you can actually do that almost guarantees you being able to scale up. But then there are, the pros within small companies is that maybe you have less competition, and, you might do something that somebody else has never done that, gets you to that, higher level quicker. So I think there are just pros and cons to whether it's a smaller company or a bigger company.
Great. This one is also for the both of you, and maybe we'll start with you, Jeremy. What is the common denominator for folks who have been successful at transitioning into tech? So let's say maybe they come from a non-tech background and they want to transition over, or even maybe recent grads who don't necessarily have a ton of experience. What is that common denominator that gets them in?
Yeah, so this is such an interesting answer here, Nina, because it's not SQL, it's not C++, it's that human skill of empathy. And what I notice the people who are most successful making that transition do is they empathize with the people on the other side of the screen. The tech recruiter, the tech hiring manager, that's their audience. And so their first insight is, wait a second, this tech recruiter is juggling 30 or 40 job openings. Every job opening has 250 applicants. What chance do I have of making a case for myself if I kind of just throw myself out as a generic candidate, say, hey, hire me from a liberal arts background. Again,
Right.
the savviest candidates say, okay, if the recruiters are operating super fast, let me really take all of my experience and break it down into tech language. Explain not just sort of what I used to do based on that old jargon, but using the language of tech right from the job description, really reframing my experience so anyone gets it instantly on the other side. And once they start to think about that audience and serve them really well, that's when opportunities start to open up.
We've been hearing a lot about the whole the empathy bone when it comes to getting jobs and especially post COVID. Mary, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I would definitely say it's a variety of things. One thing being is your personality. There I have had interviews to which, maybe they were looking for a more technical candidate, but I was more functional, so more on like the soft skills. But because of my personality and utilizing those soft skills and the willingness to learn, that actually was able to get me into more of that technical developer-like role that I honestly wasn't qualified for if you would look at my resume then. I would definitely say having a niche as well, niching down, especially in the environment that we're in now. And the reason why I keep saying environment that we're in now is, you definitely want to have skill sets that can be pandemic and recession proof throughout, not just, what's top earning right now or what's in demand, because you never know, you could be laid off a year from now just because of that specific role kind of dwindling down a little bit. So I would just say being strategic, having a niche, whether it's an area, whether it's a software, whether it's a specific industry that you are focused on, because right now I'm starting to see that a lot of the roles that are actively hiring are more like, you'll see like these crazy titles with like 3 different things in one, because they're trying to get their money's worth. They're trying to mesh 3 different roles, whether it's like a data QA tester, which like you've never heard about, because they're trying to get you to do all these different variety of skills because they're trying to save their money as well. So I would say definitely niching down. Definitely, I would say a digital portfolio as well. You want to display your skill sets in a more artistic way that, especially like with the age that we're in, to which we want that instant, feel or that instant gratification, or, we are kind of slow to look at a resume of words. A digital portfolio may be fit on displaying what you've worked on, what projects you've worked on, whether it's during school, whether it's during a boot camp. So that way, it just, you have something else that other people don't. I always say that I think that everybody should have a portfolio, whether you're a developer, which is more common within developers. But I would say even if you're a business analyst or a project manager as well, or a data analyst, you just want to have a portfolio that just displays your work that you have done. Even if you're just a student and you don't even really have a focus, highlighting what you've done and all that good stuff. Yeah.
I want to say hi to some folks who are joining. Kathleen from Hartford, Yolanda in Detroit, Leslie from Seattle, Jason from Alberta, and we've got Debbie saying the riches are in the niches. So she's agreeing with you there, Mary. 55% of tech employees are 40 years old or older. Does this mean that the industry is great for the sort of older, more mature demographic? What do you say, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I've been in every stage of tech companies, from early stage startups to mature established ones. And unfortunately, the reality is tech is just a reflection of our society. And here in 2022, we know our society is not perfect. There's still sexism, ageism, all of those things. What I would say is, rather than assume everything is going to be great, really do your research, kind of the way we were talking about. Go to linkedin.com/alumni, find some trusted alums from your very own alma mater who are working at the company, and say, hey, you might be 40 or 50 or 60, and you can do that search based on graduation year and say, what's it really like for you on the inside? Because I do think that it varies with every company and every team and every hiring manager. And if you can get a real sense of what it feels like on the inside, you can dive in so much smarter than someone who just crosses their fingers and hopes for the best.
That's great. Tapping into your alumni network is huge. Yeah, I get a lot of people from either Northeastern or NYU, the schools I went to, and yeah, and it's somehow I have this affinity for them, even though I don't know them. Like, yes, we both know how
Right,
Boston.
because you're members of the same tribe. That's so powerful.
Yeah, interesting. Jeremy, another question for you: what should people put on their resumes to make it appealing? And conversely, is there anything that they shouldn't put on their resumes or their LinkedIn profile? Mary was talking about having a digital portfolio. Is there something that should absolutely be on there or absolutely be left out?
Yeah, so let's start with what has to be there. And so if you use LinkedIn or if you work on a resume, you're operating in the realm of keywords. Because again, no recruiter has the time to read every last word. They've got to use technology to figure out, are you even a match? Are you worth me considering deeply? And the way they do that is they look for the exact language in the job description. So if a job description for tech says cross-functional collaboration, KPIs, all these tech words, make sure you leverage that language on your resume and your LinkedIn profile so they can find you and choose you. Conversely, what you don't want to have on there is a lot of language from your old industry and a lot of jargon that may not make sense. So I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, and I had all this stuff about test scores and New York State standards and alignment. That was great for getting another kindergarten teaching job, not so great for being a product marketer at Google. Speak the language of the world you want to enter into.
Speak the language of the world you want to enter into. That's great. So you don't think that someone, for example, at Google would look at you and say, oh, well, he used to work with kindergartners. He must be very empathetic or very patient. That's not how it works?
Yes, I think if you put yourself into the recruiter's shoes, and again, this is why empathy is so important. Recruiters have such a hard job. Here they are with LinkedIn, almost 900 million profiles. They just don't have the time to really go in there and make that kind of thought process versus, oh, Jeremy can do word of mouth marketing, social media marketing, product marketing, ding, ding, ding. I've got a match.
Mary, I want to ask you, you are largely self-taught and you've completed a dozen of certifications. What really worked for you and what didn't?
I would say what helped me to break into the tech field is one, identifying the specific role that I'm actually aiming for. I know it might be difficult to even decide what you want to do as a newbie, but doing that research and pairing your soft skills and your hard skills to seeing what is a good fit for you, and then creating a plan. I always tell people, if you can create a 6-month plan to which, the first few months you're focusing on, learning things and obtaining your certifications. And then maybe the next 2 months you're focusing on the hands-on practice. So the labs, the projects, you're building your portfolio. And then you can dedicate like the next few months on job searching. So I think that being able to section things by that 6 month to 9 month time frame and being dedicated to that is what helped me to break in fast.
I actually have a question from one of our members. His name is Patrick. Patrick writes, I retired following a 20-plus year career in IT, but I am considering re-entering. I hesitate for 2 reasons. The technology has changed exponentially, and I'm in my late 60s. Is this a realistic prospect? So it's a very specific question, but I think it can actually relate. It can be relatable for a lot of us. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a great question, Patrick, because even if not everyone's in that exact boat, everyone's always in a state of change, right?
Right.
One of the things we've learned in the last couple of years is, stuff changes so fast, we've got to evolve with it. So if you are at retirement age or you're early in your career and you're trying to figure out how do I get into the tech world, one way you can do it is kind of dip your toes in. So there's a site called catchafire.org where you can do awesome tech jobs for nonprofits that are looking for highly skilled volunteers in data, coding, design, marketing, all the things that you can do in the tech world. And you can do a project, to Mary's point, to build your portfolio, to demonstrate your current skill set, and then potentially even leverage that into a job at a for-profit tech firm down the road. So I think if you're curious, Patrick, but you're not ready to fully take the plunge, go out there, build your portfolio, and do some good for a great organization at the same time.
And we have a question from Sonal who is asking, what's the most common problem you think people have in making a change into tech? So we sort of talked about this earlier in the show, but Mary, curious, what is the number one problem you see with people who are trying to break in and just don't do it well?
I would say being willing and also being independent on doing that. I think that we live in the society to which we are kind of more comfortable having things being done for us. And although there are programs and things that can help you, you have to be able to pull yourself up as well. And basically, alleviating or removing distractions and just like having that clear picture, okay, this is what I want to do, and actually sticking to it. Because we often say, yes, I want to do this, but after 3 months, we are completely doing something completely different, which brings me to another point of trying to do everything at once. I always tell the people that I help out or my students that, just because you are not just because you're not getting that role within the desired time frame doesn't mean that's actually the time frame that is meant for you. You know, you might say, okay, I want to roll within 3 months, and then completely throw it to the side and then pick up something else, and you're not really focusing in on what you're trying to do, when you never know, maybe that next month is actually when you're actually meant to get a role. So really just staying focused, dedicating that time frame that you set to yourself, and also giving yourself a break as well, like giving yourself a break. And not, we're so difficult, we're so hard on ourselves because okay, this isn't working by this time, you know, everything sucks, it's over. But it's like, just like relax, calm down, and start over, you know.
You know, so in journalism, I will say that it's a very winding path. Like sometimes you start here, but you want this job, but you go here and then you do this. And is it the same in tech? Is the trajectory, can the trajectory be sort of zigzagged as well, or is it a little bit more linear?
I think so, because honestly, tech is always changing. So you always need to upskill regardless. Like, you actually have no choice. If you want to be successful in the tech field, you have to continue upskilling, getting new certifications, learning new skills, and adapting to your company, upgrading their systems and changing. However, you still have to have, what is your main thing? You know, what's your main focus? You can learn different skill sets, but you still need to have your majority, you know, before you're focusing on a variety of different things to help you out on, you know, what's your main thing? You know, you still have to be able to master something before you're trying to master everything. So it is changing. You still need to upskill and learn a variety of things, but like, still don't go all crazy trying to do 30 different things at once.
Well, you mentioned certifications, and I want to ask for the both of you, are there any certifications that are very differentiating when it comes to getting the job or not getting the job? Because it's not always about the degree, right?
Yeah.
So for the both of you, I need any certification that you think really makes a difference.
I personally, it highly depends on the pathway. Honestly, there's not that one cert that you absolutely need to do, because we might say, for example, Security Plus is one of the top certs, you know, but if you don't intend on being in the security sector or anything in relation to it, then it wouldn't make sense for you. So it just depends on what it is that you desire to do. After you have that clear picture, this is what I want to do, or these are the variety of things I want to do, then you can get the supporting certifications that support that, because what matters to one company might not matter in another role. So yeah.
Jeremy, do you agree, disagree?
Oh, totally. So yeah, I think the biggest mistake I see job seekers making when it comes to certificates is they just pursue stuff willy-nilly, not focusing on that North Star of what matters to the recruiter. So if you want that source of truth, go to the job description. If you're applying for project management jobs and it says must have PMP, well, guess what? You got to get that PMP. But if you're applying for jobs, for instance, in the Salesforce CRM world, and it doesn't request Salesforce certification, maybe you don't have to focus as much there. And so you can just go all out, go out and get that job.
We have a question from one of our members, Nicole. She's asking, what boot camps do you recommend? If you recommend them at all.
So, I mean, I am a little biased just because I do have a boot camp. I am the owner of an academy, but I would say that, you know, my boot camp might not work for you. It really just highly depends on, again, what you want to do. There are some boot camps that have a variety of skill sets that they can teach you, but then there are also other boot camps which are more singular topics. So if you're set on, okay, I want to be a data analyst, then maybe do some research on data analytics boot camps, and then talk to alumni and people who have graduated. You know, you can easily just search it within LinkedIn and contact them and ask them how their experience is. You know, when I post, you know, the people that have gotten jobs from my academy, people are always, you know, often saying, well, you know, how can I talk to somebody? I'm like, well, here's the hashtag, you know, do some, you know, research, contact them, and get some real life perspectives, whether it's positive or negative at the end of the day.
Because not all boot camps are created equally, right?
Yeah. It just depends on what works for you. You have to look at their post-grad support as well. You know, are they helping you to do some research? Do they have projects? Do they have capstones? It's just a variety of things that are important when looking for boot camps.
Great. And my final question here, we have to wrap it up, unfortunately. But Jeremy, what you focus on marketing in your MBA. What would you say are the top 3 tips for people to market themselves to the tech industry? Your top 3.
Top 3. So here we go. Number 3 is start with your audience in mind. You know, as a marketer, I'm at Khan Academy. I spend every day obsessing about how do I serve students? How do I serve parents? How do I serve educators? I'm trying to do a Vulcan mind meld with that audience. And you as a job seeker should be doing the same thing with the recruiters and the hiring managers. What do they care about? What do they want to see? And if you're not sure, go out there and ask them. There are almost 900 million of them on LinkedIn alone. Number two, once you know who your audience is, speak their language. And we've talked about that ad nauseum, which is like a great marketing campaign is talking about things in the same way that you talk about them naturally. You want to speak the language of the tribe you want to join. And then third and finally, the biggest thing is we know from our own marketing research that people are much more swayed by other people recommending a product or service than just an advertisement. And so the single best way you can get a great job is to have someone go to bat for you on the inside. That's what we call a job referral. And if you're like, well, Jeremy, I don't know anyone in tech. You know, here I am sitting 1,000 miles away from Silicon Valley. How do I get a tech job referral? Guess what? Someone from your school, someone from the nonprofit you volunteered with, someone from your church or synagogue or mosque absolutely is in that industry. And they would be happy to make that referral if only you ask. So leverage the power of word of mouth to get your foot in the door.
I love that. Thank you both for joining me today and for answering our questions and just sort of breaking this down for us. We really appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank you.
That was Mary Awodele, founder of My Tech Best Friend, and Jeremy Schifeling, founder of Break Into Tech. And thanks everyone for your comments. Again, sorry we couldn't get to everything today, but you can continue the conversation here, make those connections Jeremy was talking about here in the stream. You can check out some of our other stories to the right of your feed, or of course, if you're on mobile, just click into the search box. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a happy Halloween, everyone. Be safe out there. Thanks for watching LinkedIn News Live, and big shout out to my producer, Taisha, who helped me prep this show. I'm Nina Melendez. Thanks for watching.